NEAR Protocol under the fact check. What's behind the hype and the 1 million TPS? Imagine you're betting on an AI coin that's supposedly capable of 1 million transactions per second. Is that really the case? But in the end, you don't really know, is there real technology behind it or is it just another hype? And this is exactly where it will be decided whether you miss out on an opportunity or make a wrong decision. In this video, we'll take a look together at what's actually true about NEAR Protocol and what in the end might just be simple marketing. So definitely stay tuned because the truth is much clearer than many people think. First of all, NEAR Protocol is a blockchain project that has been working since 2018 to make crypto simpler and more scalable, which is extremely important. It was founded by two experienced developers, Ilya Poloskin and Alexander Skinadov. Both of them come from the world of high-performance systems as well as artificial intelligence. Today, NEAR is considered one of the most exciting mid-cap blockchains because it ultimately combines two strong trends: scalable blockchain infrastructure and a user-oriented foundation. NEAR's goal is clear: to build a blockchain that feels like a regular app without complicated wallets, without bridges, but with performance of up to 1 million transactions per second in the future. Let's take a look together at why NEAR, despite its market value of $3.2 billion, still has enormous growth potential and how strong the token structure really is. In other words, whether the project's AI vision actually has substance. This will give you a clear overview of whether NEAR is a serious technology project or if it's simply benefiting from the current AI trend. Before we get started together, go ahead and grab yourself a coffee, leave a like for me, and if you want to discover interesting altcoin gems early, then check out 10x Elite. There, on the one hand, you get insight into my personal crypto portfolio so you can see exactly which projects I'm actually invested in. Then you get access to the 10 times ranking list, where I've rated over 100 altcoins as a percentage, all in one ranking. You can also use the 10 times indicator, which you already know from my videos. And in addition, in the 10x Elite, for example, I also provide market updates as well as information about my own trades. On top of that, there's the 10x Cam Radar, where I showcase exciting low-cap altcoins early on before they reach the mainstream. So if you want to move away from speculation and randomness and prefer to rely on data, structure, and strategy, then 10x Elite is the next logical step for you. And right now, you can still get 30% off your first month with the code 10x. You'll find all the information in the video description right at the first link. But a quick disclaimer: my channel does not provide financial advice, it is purely for informational purposes. Let's move on to the first point, as always, the market capitalization. When we talk about NEAR, many investors always start with the question, how big is this project actually? And of course, how much room for growth is still left? When I first saw a market cap of $3.24 billion, I actually felt that with this, we have an altcoin that is neither too small nor too large. So, a project that has a solid foundation, but still massive upside potential, which is always an advantage, especially when you know that NEAR was once worth over $20 billion. This clearly shows that there's still a lot of room to grow if the ecosystem continues to expand and the AI features are used more extensively. My rating in this area, 7 out of 10. Now let's move on to metric number 2, the circulating supply, in other words, the supply in circulation. One thing that often annoys me with altcoins is the hidden unlocks. Suddenly, new tokens hit the market and the price drops, which is obviously suboptimal. But that's not the case with NEAR. 100% of the tokens are already in circulation, which is definitely an advantage. This means you know exactly what you're dealing with, and there won't suddenly be any additional amounts coming onto the market, so no selling pressure and no surprises. And that's worth its weight in gold for investors, of course. In this area, a solid 10, it's just good. Now let's move on to the third metric, the roadmap. So when I actually read through this roadmap, I noticed something. Here it's not just talk, things are actually being delivered, which is extremely important. New charts, wallet updates, AI integration, and the goal is 1 million transactions per second. And if you take a closer look at what has been implemented in recent years, you can see that NEAR has really always met its deadlines, or in other words, the deadlines were realistic. They were realistic and were met. So here, a strong 9. Now let's move on to the team. The NEAR team is a strong one. It doesn't feel like a typical crypto team, I have to say. It feels more like a tech team from Silicon Valley, meaning, for example, Google experience, AI expertise, high-performance systems. This mix, of course, ensures that development is not only carried out, but also well thought out. That's extremely strong. 9. Now let's move on to the narrative. The narrative is, of course, clear to me. A blockchain that understands AI, for example, with AI agents. And that's especially relevant in a world where artificial intelligence is becoming more and more important. That's the perfect combination nowadays, in the end. And NEAR is, in the end, making use of this trend, of course. But what's important is that it's not just riding the trend, because they have real features backing it up. Here, definitely a strong 9. Next, what problem is NEAR actually trying to solve? When you use blockchain, it often feels extremely complicated. Creating a wallet, securing the seed phrase, connecting apps, and of course understanding the risks. But NEAR completely turns this process around. The blockchain is supposed to feel like a regular app. In the end, you just enter your goal and the AI takes care of the rest. This solves one of the biggest problems in the entire industry because it's just so extremely complicated. But NEAR isn't like that. A 9 in this area. Next, what about sustainability? Maybe the topic of energy hasn't mattered to you so far, but for many institutional investors, this is actually an important point they pay attention to. NEAR is 200,000 times more energy efficient than Bitcoin and is also certified climate neutral. That, of course, makes NEAR super interesting for large companies that want to use blockchain with a clear conscience. Here, it's not just about investment, but about using the technology. A strong 10. Now let's move on to the investors and the capital. When a project has raised over $542 million in funding, we're not just looking at a small coin here, but at an entire ecosystem. Major VCs are backing NEAR, and that of course also provides security, because strong investors don't put in hundreds of millions unless there's a clear vision behind it, and of course, solid execution. Another strong 10. Next up, competition. Imagine you're competing against Solana, Avalanche, Polkadot, Polygon, and Ethereum. That sounds like a huge challenge, but NEAR is taking a completely different approach here. Not faster, not higher, not louder, but simpler, more intuitive, AI optimized. And that is definitely a massive strength. By the way, if you want to know more about the competitors, I've already analyzed Solana, I've analyzed Avalanche. Check out the playlist, the 10x Universe, where I've analyzed lots of other exciting altcoins. And for next weekend, I have 2 more altcoins for you, some from the low cap sector that you won't want to miss. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's move on to marketing. NEAR doesn't seem like a project that grows through advertising, but rather one that grows steadily and stably through clear communication, events, community, and engagement. This isn't really an exclusive marketing wave, but rather a long-term brand building effort. Here, a strong 8. Next, how simple is NEAR's concept actually? The more complicated your project sounds, the fewer people will use it, of course. That's just logical. But NEAR does exactly the opposite. It explains blockchain as if it were a cloud software. That naturally makes it attractive to most beginners and developers at the same time. That's obviously a huge advantage. Here, a strong 9. Now let's move on to the long-term vision. NEAR's vision goes far beyond the world of crypto. 1 million transactions per second, complete chain abstraction, AI agents, applications that anyone can use. If this vision comes true, then we're no longer talking about a coin here, but about an infrastructure that changes everyday life. And that's what's important. Here, definitely a strong 9. Next, deflationary max supply. What's the situation there? NEAR doesn't have a fixed supply. That might sound concerning at first, but it's important to know the fees are burned, and with high activity, NEAR can even become deflationary, which is of course sustainable. So it really depends on how much happens on the chain, how much is done, how many users they have. Still, only a 6 in this area. Next point, what about the fully diluted market capitalization? A point that is often underestimated. FDV and market cap are both $3.25 billion. This means there's no hidden risk of dilution, but also no nasty surprises. But that's also partly because they don't have a max supply. A 10 in this area. Next, volume to market cap. The daily volume is currently around 355 million. That's about 11% of the market cap. That's a figure that already shows there's real interest and that you can buy or sell at any time without a major price drop, which is of course extremely important. A strong 10 here. Next, let's move on to token distribution and the lockup period. The major unlocks are already behind us. There are no more big drops, and let's say, no annoying surprises. And the distribution seems clean, which is of course important. That speaks for good stability. A solid and strong 8 here. Then, what about the top coin holders? The top 10 wallets hold about 25.13%. That's not perfect, but it's solid and clearly better than many comparable projects. So, a solid 7 here. Next, what about the utility of the NEAR token? Of the NEAR coin? Real usage. Gas fees, of course. Staking, AI agents, cross-chain actions, governance, that is, voting rights. So, the ecosystem works. A strong 9. Next, what about the community? Over 100 million wallets, almost 250,000 active users per day, and a dynamic developer scene. The data and numbers show that NEAR isn't just growing, it's actually alive, and that's much more important. And here's a question for you. Are you a NEAR holder yourself or a NEAR fan? Feel free to write it in the comments so others become aware of videos like this, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion. Here, a strong 9. Then an extremely important point. What events are coming up? The next few months will bring new charts, new token launches, AI integrations. NEARCon is exactly that combination that could give NEAR a real boost in 2026 and 27. Here, a strong 8. The NEAR Protocol is one of the most exciting mid-cap projects currently on the market. The fundamentals, the technology, and the vision show a project that not only follows the AI trend, but actively helps shape it. The roadmap is clear. The milestones are being delivered, and the team demonstrates that, in the end, they possess not only the technical skills, but also, let's say, the capabilities to realize this grand vision. On top of that, they have massive capital from top investors, and ultimately, it's already an ecosystem with millions of wallets and many daily users, which is, of course, extremely strong. So if you combine all of this, NEAR reaches a total score of 83.4% on my 10 times ranking list. That puts them right at the top. An extremely strong score. But what does all this actually mean for the price? Now we're going to take a look at the different price scenarios. As always, we'll start with the bear scenario. Imagine a market where fear is dominating again. Big investors are pulling out, and many small investors are selling in panic. That's exactly what we saw just a few weeks ago. In an environment like that, it's extremely tough for altcoins, even with NEAR's strong fundamentals. For NEAR, that would ultimately mean the price could drop to, say, $1.5. Now let's move on to the normal scenario. Imagine the market is growing slowly and healthily. No extreme euphoria, but solid confidence, especially in technologies. New users are joining, AI applications are being used, and DeFi is starting to grow again step by step, which is also extremely important. In this environment, NEAR can steadily gain value and theoretically, mathematically reach a price of about $5. That's a more sustainable level without hype. Now let's move on to the optimistic scenario, the one that probably interests you even more. Let's take the whole picture a bit further. The market becomes livelier, new projects take off, DeFi is booming, and AI naturally attracts many more developers. Suddenly, it becomes clear how important a fast, simple, and energy-efficient blockchain like NEAR actually is. In such a phase, NEAR could grow much more strongly and reach areas around $10. That would already be a significant jump, but still within the bounds, I'd say, of a healthy growth and upward trend, especially when the altcoin season begins. Now let's move on to the very optimistic scenario. Imagine we experience another phase like the bigger bull markets we had in the past. The altcoin season begins. Big companies enter the market, AI agents become everyday tools, and the demand for truly scalable blockchains skyrockets. NEAR could play a central role in such a situation, because that's exactly what it was built for in the future. In such a case, they could mathematically reach $20. Now let's move on to the vision for 2030. The most exciting question is how far a project like NEAR can go if it doesn't just become part of the market, but actually becomes a real standard. Imagine a world where AI agents are commonplace, where apps work seamlessly across different chains without technical barriers, and where people use blockchain without even knowing it's a blockchain, or that they're using one at all. It's extremely exciting. And if NEAR implements this vision, essentially becoming the foundational technology for AI and intelligent applications, then they could reach mathematical price scenarios of $50. But now let's take a look at the chart analysis together and see what things look like at the moment, what the current status is. Hello and welcome to the chart analysis for NEAR. Right at the beginning, as always, I use TradingView, which I think most of you know, and I've developed my own indicator. And currently this is what things look like for NEAR. We had quite a bit of volatility here, you really have to say. This was essentially the flash crash. Then there was another massive recovery here. We also had, for example, a green dot here. A green dot on my indicator means it's a bullish trend reversal. Then we pushed upwards as well. At the top, wait, let's see how many percent that was. Boom! It was 85%. But up here, we had a red dot, which meant that a bearish trend reversal was imminent. And that's exactly what happened. We got pushed down again. By the way, a red dot up here, the big one, means that we're in overbought zones. So when a lot of people are buying, that's an indication. Okay, that's when I personally would rather take profits or exit completely. And a big green dot, of course, means exactly the opposite. For example, here, a lot of people sold, we entered oversold zones, a green dot formed, and then it pushed upward. That was an idea for me where I might look for an entry point. In any case, as you can see, we just had a small green dot form here again, which initially suggests that we could have a bullish trend reversal. But we weren't in the oversold zone here, we were just barely short of it. But overall, things are looking quite positive for NEAR. And things are also looking quite positive for the entire market, especially if we look at it in relation to Bitcoin. Because with Bitcoin, we also had a green dot form here. We were being sold off the whole time here, then a green dot formed. Which suggests that we found the bottom, maybe the local bottom. For example, during this period here, I also started doing dollar cost averaging again. And now we've pushed upwards, had a small red dot, which usually indicates a bearish trend reversal. Then we pushed down a bit, but now we're back up again, green dot, which means another bullish trend reversal. Now let's see how things develop from here. But for now, the signs are looking quite positive. By the way, I regularly post updates in my 10x Elite about how my 10x indicator is currently performing, but you can also actually use it yourself in my 10x Elite, or you can get it completely independently if you want. You can find all the information directly in the video description in the first 2 links. Wait, before you go, I have an exciting altcoin for you right here. I hadn't had it on my radar for a long time, but fortunately now I do, because it's so strong and why it's so important. All the information is right here. So enjoy watching and see you in a bit.